Hi, this is Sammy again. Today what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you how to graph linear inequalities, how to shade, how to test, how to use the slope y-intercept form to graph, or the x-intercept and the y-intercept. And also we'll be exploring the slope point form as well with inequalities. So stay tuned. See you in a bit. Here's the first question, the linear inequality. Y is less than or equal to negative half x plus 3. So the first thing, we should rewrite this as y equals negative half x plus 3, so we could graph it. So this equation here is in the form y equals mx plus b, where m is the slope and b is the y-intercept. So my y-intercept, which is b, equals 3, and my slope m is negative 1/2. So what I do, I go ahead and plot the y-intercept. So what does the y-intercept mean? If this is the x-axis and this is the y-axis, the y-intercept means where your point is on the y-axis. So basically where you're intersecting or intercepting the y-axis. So you go to where y equals 3 is and you put a point. Now the slope is negative 1/2. So the slope m is rise over run. So your rise is 1 and your run is 2. The only thing here, because the slope is negative, your line should be moving down instead of moving up as you go from left to right. So therefore, when you go, you either go up 1, the rise, and then go to the left 2, so rise over run, or you go down 1 over 2 this way, and you keep on doing that, down 1 over 2 this way, and now you realize that your line will be going down, satisfying that it's a negative slope. And then what we'll do, we'll just graph this line according to this points right here. And this is how the line looks like. And now the next thing is dealing with the inequality. So we graph the line y equals negative half x plus 3. Now we have to test the inequality. Also remember that when the inequality sign includes an equal sign, your line here has to be solid line. And if there's no equal sign with the inequality sign, then your line would be a dashed line. So there you go. How do we test? When we're testing, we always test the point of the origin. The point of the origin is this one here, 0, 0. So because it's an easier point to work with, so we say test 0, 0. Now, what does that mean? It means we have an x and a y value. Now we go to the original equation that's given to us in the question right here, and we test 0, 0 right there. So we sub in 0 for y less than or equal negative half times 0 plus 3, which gives me 0 is less than or equal negative half times 0 just gives you 0, and then plus 3, you get 3. Now you look at this statement. If the statement is true, which is the case here, then you shade where your testing point is. So you're shading underneath the line. Yeah, and this is done for that question. We'll move on to the next question. So here's the next question. The next question is going to be 2x minus 3y is greater than 6. In this one right here, the best way to graph this is using the x and y intercept. So how do we do that? The first thing we do, we just rewrite this equation as 2x minus 3y equals 6. The x-intercept, when you hitting the x-axis here, always the y value is 0. So if the y value is 0, what I tell my students, the best way to do it is, if you're finding the x-intercept, you block the y values, because if you're finding the x-intercept, you make your y value 0, and therefore it becomes 2x equals 6. Now you divide both sides by 2, and you get x equals 3. So that is first thing, finding the x-intercept. Now, if you want to find the y-intercept, So we're going to find the y-intercept now. What you do, you make x 0. And if you make x 0, you know all of this will disappear. And what you'll end up with negative 3y equals 6. And therefore, you divide both sides by negative 3 equals negative 2. Once we have plotted the x-intercept and the y-intercept, what we do now, we just figure out maybe a few other points. So if you look at these 2 points, you're going up 2 over 3. You could go up 2 over 3 again. And maybe down 2 over 3 this way. Now we know our line is going to be a dotted line like this. To figure out where we're shading, we test 0, 0. And we will get 3. This is x, that's y. So we test there. We put the 0 for the x and the y. And we get greater than 6. That will give me, 0 for y right here. So when you're testing, we get 0 is greater than 6. That's false. So we don't shade where 0 and 0 is. You know, the line is going to be a dotted line right through here. And 0, 0 happens to be above the line. Because it's false, we don't shade there. We shade on the other side, which is below the line. And I'm just going to graph this using this most right here. So, and that is basically how the graph looks like. So here's the last question that we will do. The thing here, we have y plus 2 is less than or equal to negative x plus 1. This linear equation is written in the format y minus y1 equals m x minus x1, where m is the slope and the point x is x1, y1. So here, if we want to find out what the slope is, the slope is right here, even though we only wrote negative, but there's a 1 right there. So the slope is negative 1, which means negative 1 over 1. So the rise is 1 and the run is 1 as well. And this line should be going down since the slope is negative. And the point from here, you have an x value and a y value. So the x is negative 1. You always have to change the sign. And also the y is negative 2. So now this is done. But all you need to do is just go plug in this point into the grid. So here the point is at negative 1 and negative 2. So negative 1 and negative 2 is right here. And then the slope is, you go up 1 if you wish, and left 1, up 1, left 1, up 1, left 1, or you could go down 1 to the right 1. Just make sure when the slope is negative, when you draw the line, it should be going down as you go from left to right. Okay. Now, I will graph this. So your graph is a solid line because there's an equal sign. As we said, if there's an equal sign with the inequality, your line is solid. If there's no equal sign, then it should be a dotted line or a dashed line. Yeah. So there we go. This is how this line is going to look like. Now the inequality means we have to shade. So the best point to test is 0, 0. So I'm going to test 0, 0 for find out where we're shading. So now test the origin, which is 0, 0. Sub n 0 for this is x and y. Sub n 0 for the x and 0 for the y. So we get 0 plus 2 is less than or equal to negative 1 times 0 plus 1. Now we get 2 here is less than or equal. Now 0 plus 1 is just 1. 1 times negative 1 is negative 1. Is 2 less than negative 1? No, that's false. What does that mean? That means we cannot shade where 0, 0 is. We cannot shade where the testing point is. If it's false, we don't shade where the testing point is. We don't shade there, then therefore we're going to shade below the line. So that's where my shading is. And here is how the graph looks like. That's your shading underneath the line as we found out right here. So this is how your line looks like. We'll do one more just because there's a little thing that you should know. So here's one more. How about if we have y is less than negative 2x. So now to do this, or to graph this, you could follow the y equals mx plus b. B here, as you see, there's no b, so therefore b is 0. So my b here would be 0, and you treat this, if you want to graph it, as y equals negative 2x. So b is 0, because as you see, you compare this to this, you realize that b is 0, and the slope m is negative 2, which means it's negative 2 over 1. Now, if the y-intercept is 0, it's 0 right there. And now the slope is negative 2 over 1. That means you go down 1, 2 over 1. You do that again, 1, 2 over 1. Or you could also go up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1. As we mentioned earlier, when you have a negative slope, your line should be going down. Now from here, your line should be a dotted line. Now, testing. Would you test the origin here? No, I cannot test the origin because my line is going through the origin. So you have to take another point and test it. So either you take a point above the line or below the line. You could take 1, 1, you could take 0, 1, you could take 1, 0, whichever point you feel comfortable with. So how about 1 and 1? Let's test this point here, which is 1 and 1. So that means x is 1, y is 1. I'm going to sub it into this equation right here. So y is 1 is less than negative 2. And then x is 1 as well. So I put that right there. So I get 1 is less than negative 2 times 1 gives me negative 2. Now, is this true? Is 1 less than negative 2? No, that's false. So it's false. You don't shade where that point is. If it's true, then you shade where the testing point is. But if it's false, you don't shade where the testing point is. You shade on the other side. So the testing point is above the line. That means you have to shade below the line right here. And that is when the line is going through point 0, 0. You cannot test 0, 0 anymore. You have to test a different point. Y is less than negative 2x. And there you go. It's a dotted line. And then you're shading underneath. And that's basically how you graph linear inequalities. Again, this is it for this lesson. Thank you for watching again. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and share with others so they could benefit. Till next time, bye-bye.